what inspired you to pursue law in general?
So I've always had like a really big sense of justice. Like when things aren't fair, I don't like it. When something doesn't make sense, it's not logical, I don't like it. I've always been very empathetic too, and just hyper aware of how people are feeling, people around me are feeling. And so I was always looking for some way that I can use my special skills, of being super logical and empathetic and this desire to ensure that things are right and they remain right. And then I just sort of fell into law from there. I mean, I grew up watching Investigation Discovery. And I thought I was going to be a police officer. So it's kind of ironic that I sue them now for a living. But then I was like, I'm not chasing anybody. I'm not running towards danger. I'm not going in around some dark corner. No, I'm not doing that. But I still liked that space of that type of work, not law enforcement, but
Mm.
justice aligned work.
And as we know, the legal field isn't really meant to serve people of color. So did you ever find yourself in moments where you questioned your decision to go into law?
No, I never questioned my decision. Actually, because I could see that there weren't people that looked like us in the law
Mhm.
field, that made me want to do it even more so. I had my own run-ins with the law as a child. As a child, I was a teenager. I got caught stealing from a store. And I just remember going into the courtroom. My attorney was a white man. The county attorney was a white man. The judge was a white man. The court reporter was a white woman. The sheriff's deputies in the courtroom, they were white men. And I was like, I don't like this. Number one, the fact that I am in a room full of white people who don't have my best interests at heart. And number two, because it just feels like I'm falling into a stereotype and being something that the greater society wants me to be. And I'm just so much better than that. So that was part of and like after that, I didn't get in any more trouble because I can be impulsive and I like to have a good time. But after that, I didn't get in any more trouble, and it really solidified what I wanted to do, and what area of law I wanted to be in.
And in moments of like burnout or doubt, what would you say kept you, from walking away from becoming a lawyer?
Just knowing that, like, if I'm not going to do it, how can I expect someone else to do it? You know,
Mhm.
it's, I have the concern that people aren't getting what they deserve or that officers are treating people improperly. I had another situation where I was driving my car, my taillight was out. I was driving my friend to pick up some tires out in Western Maryland, uh, Hagerstown area, so like way out there. And we got pulled over because my taillights were out. We were smoking marijuana. It wasn't legal at the time. It is what it is. But when the officer came up to ask for my license and registration, he saw or smelled the marijuana and made us both get out of the car. And when I tell y'all, they tore my car up. I was driving a little, it was a Saturn SL2. Like they don't even make I don't even think they made them when I bought that one. But it was a 1997 Saturn SL2, and this was in like 2007 or 2008. Tore up my headliners, like tore everything out of my glove box, and they had us outside. It was cold. They had us outside for hours. They ended up taking my friend to the detention center because if it was 5 grams, I'd be surprised. But I ended up waiting outside the detention center for them to release her, and they released her, on her own recognizance. She didn't have to go back to court or anything. But that also, remembering things like that reminds me why I'm doing what I do. Because then, now, even if I came to myself with that story, um, that is not a lawsuit that I would bring. But back then, I didn't even know that that was something that was really against the law. It was just like police are excessive. They do what they want because they don't get in trouble. It is what it is. Well, it's not what it is. It is what we make it. And I'm going to, with the help of everybody here and all the organizations we work with, we're going to make it right.
Thank you for sharing. I feel like it's it's sort of interesting to hear that you've had your own run-ins with the law being on the other side. I was wondering who or what has sort of kind of been the biggest positive influence on your law journey.
Uh, Honestly, I can't really say there's been a specific person. I mean, I have an amazing circle, my friends, my families, my mentors, the people who I work around, love them. But I think it's just knowing that something is wrong and knowing that there's something that I can do about it, like I can actually do something about it, not just like Twitter fingers, that keeps me going because even if there's a particular problem that I can't solve or a particular case that is really hard, and some of the cases that we see and litigate are incredibly difficult. But then I always ask myself, well, if we're not going to do it. Who's going to do it? And are they going to do it right? I'm so type A when it comes to my lawyer side. My personal side, very much type B. My lawyer side, so type A. And I'm afraid that if I don't do it, it won't get done right and it won't get done by the right people. And I hate when people have a negative perception of attorneys, civil attorneys, criminal attorneys, any kind of attorneys. And a lot of their perceptions are justified, based on clients that have come to us and talked about their experiences with other attorneys. And I never want to be that person or that law firm. So whenever I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this, I just don't feel like it, I don't want to do any more prep, I don't want to read these motions again, I'm like, well, what if I don't? I'm going to look dumb. And I'm not going to do that.
I think you're starting to get into it, but I am curious about like what your specific role is at Hansel Law. Obviously, you're managing attorney. How does this sort of impact what cases you take on, um, and sort of balancing the demands of your current position?
So my position here is quite interesting because I started off as a legal assistant here. October of this year will be 10 years that I've worked here. And I've done every position here. And the firm has never had a managing attorney before. The firm actually opened only a few months before I started working here. And I'm sure I'll get to that story because it's like my favorite to tell, but it wasn't open for that long. So we were both really new at this. Like Carrie Hansel, the attorney that I work with, he had been an attorney for almost 20 years at that point, but he'd never run his own firm. And I'd never even worked in a law office. So we're there like learning together. And it was difficult. It was difficult for sure. But we did. There was another piece of your question that I don't think I've answered yet.
Wondering how it impacted the cases that you take on.
Right. So, thankfully, now I actually get to decide most of the cases that we do or don't take. So again, in my role as a managing attorney, a lot of the things that I am doing and sort of shaping up for the firm and helping Carrie shape up for the firm are things that we haven't done before. Like we're trying things out that are new. Our firm is very unique in that way. And So we have right now we're having like bi-monthly meetings and our support staff will do the intakes and they'll collect records and they'll have conversations with either witnesses or the plaintiff. And then we'll all sit together, myself, the associate attorneys in the office, the paralegals, the legal assistants, the interns, like we all sit together because I think it's incredibly important for everyone in this firm to feel like they have a voice because they do. Even though I'm the one that makes the ultimate decision, I always ask people, before I say, hey, I think we should reject this case. Damages aren't quite where they need to be, and liability's a little unsure. But does anyone think any differently? And I genuinely solicit input because I've recognized the same thing that Carrie recognized when he hired me. There are life experiences and considerations that I might make that he doesn't make. We are we are a very mixed group of people that come from all different backgrounds and have all different life experiences. Some have kids, some don't, some have, 4 year degrees, some don't, some, live on their own, some still live with, it's just everyone. So we I take everyone's opinion and review of cases very seriously. Now, the way it impacts my job, it makes my job a lot harder because there's a lot of administrative stuff that comes with managing the firm. So I also take care of, payroll. I'm the payroll person. I am human resources. When there's an interpersonal conflict between two employees here, I'm the one who takes care of it. Whenever there is a conflict with opposing counsel and maybe Carrie's not here and ordinarily he would handle it, then I'm going to be the one to handle it or make the decision on that. And a lot of times that terrifies me because these are real people, they're real experiences. Like it terrifies me to lose a case for a client who was, for example, beat into a coma, in a correctional facility with correctional officers watching. And I definitely feel the weight on my shoulders, balancing the administrative side of the managing side of being an attorney, and then also managing the litigation side, because at the end of the day, I'm still an attorney. I still have to, write motions and do oral arguments and hearings and meet with clients and do all of those things. So it's a juggle. And to be entirely honest, I'm still figuring it out. I've been in this position since technically November of 2022, when I passed the bar. But I'm to this day, as of a couple of hours ago, I'm still trying to come up with systems and things we can put in place in the firm to make sure our clients are being properly served, that our staff is being properly served, and that no one's getting overworked or burnt out or feels like they have so much on their plate when the person next to them doesn't have enough. And that's also, again, my big thing is making sure people feel seen and heard. That goes for my clients, that goes for our employees too.
I was just wondering, what was some of your biggest challenges, kind of going back, that you faced in undergrad and law school, and what were some of the steps you took to overcome them?
Just time management. That has always been a struggle of mine. I did undergrad. I went to school full time. Well, the short version is I went to community college, but it was either 6 or 9 years to finish community college because I didn't want any loans. I didn't want anything like that. So I was taking one or two classes at a time, like however many classes I could pay for when the semester was about to start. That's how many classes I took. So it took me a long time to graduate from community college. And then undergrad, when I transferred to Maryland, I was still working full time and going to school full time. Same for law school. I was working full time during the day and going to school full time at night. So it was, if I had the choice to do it again, I might not because it was so stressful and exhausting and like forgetting to eat. I would go 18 hours and forget to eat and be like, oh, why am I dizzy? Why do I feel nauseous? Why does my stomach hurt? Oh, girl, you haven't eaten since dinner last night. And it's 6 o'clock. You're about to go to class the next day. So that is still, and time management and organization, I'm so much better at now. Those things are getting better. The way I got better at those things was to ask for help. Ask for help from whoever could possibly help me. And for me, what that looked like is going back to therapy because I was in therapy for a little bit, off and on in undergrad. Like I would go to a couple sessions and be like, I'm good. And then I would be really annoyed about something, go back for a couple more sessions, and then, I'm good. But after, really after the first semester of law school, I started focusing more on self-care and making sure that I was okay because I can have the tendency to run myself into the ground, and that doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve myself. It definitely doesn't serve our clients. And that's not the kind of attorney I want to be. That's not the kind of attorney I want to set an example as because I know that people are watching, people within the firm and people outside of the firm. So it's important to me to make a good example. So asking for help. I got diagnosed with mild anxiety and depression and attention deficit disorder, which after the diagnosis, everything just fell into place and made so much sense. I struggled a lot with executive dysfunction. So just getting started on something, being able to break down big tasks into smaller ones was difficult for me. And I noticed it impacting, school because I was waiting until last minute to do, 25-page paper that might be due. So of course I'm not putting the time into it that I should. And same at work, I'm waiting until the week before trial to prep for trial. And it's like, no, girl, you should have been prepping 3 months ago. The week before trial, you should really just be spot checking, adding post-it notes and I don't know, practicing your opening or something. So still a work in progress.
Thank you for sharing. I feel like that's definitely something that's not spoken about enough, especially for students, and not prioritizing your mental health. And just to piggyback off of that, what's something about your journey that people would be surprised to know?
Oh, this is the story that I said, oh, I'm sure we'll get to it. So I really just fell into the job that I'm in now. I was in community college at the time. I was a criminal justice major and then a business minor. So for my minor, we had a capstone project and it was called Interview with a Leader. You had to find someone that was in basically a C-suite position of some area that you were interested in. And so I was sure by that time that I wanted to go into law, but I just didn't know where in the law. So I remember walking down the hallway, and this was 2015, shortly after Mike Brown was killed. And there was a flyer in the hallway for a police accountability forum. And the flyer was essentially a panel discussion between a couple different community organizations. And then there was ACLU, there was Carrie Hansel, the attorney I work with now. And there were, I think, two other attorneys from public interest organizations. And they had a long discussion, an open discussion about what it means to have interactions with law enforcement, what to do before, leading up to that interaction, in the midst of the interaction, and then after, like how to secure your rights after that interaction. And that's the piece that really got me because, folks, they experience a trauma, and a lot of people, especially a lot of people that look like us, always sweep it under the rug, mostly because we're like, well, who's going to care? Who's going to do anything about that? I can't afford to hire an attorney. No one's going to believe me anyway. And again, I'm like, that's not right. That's not fair. So after that meeting, like I wiggled my way through the crowd because, everybody's trying to talk to Carrie. And I was like, hey, I'm really interested in what you do. I really loved hearing about your firm and the kind of work that you do. So if you don't mind, I'd really love to talk to you. I have this project to do, and I'd love to interview you for it. So he was like, yeah, okay, give me a call. He gave me his card, and I'm like, yes, nailed it. So I call, he doesn't answer. I call again, he doesn't answer. I probably called this man 15 or so times. He is not answering the phone. I start showing up because I'm like I'm a rational kind of crazy. Like I have boundaries, right? But I know where that boundary is. So I started showing up at the office and he wasn't at the office. And I'm like, what is going on? I didn't know then that he had just opened the firm. Like this was probably April, no, it was beginning of the semester. So August, September. He had just opened the firm. And so he wasn't there because he was doing all of the things. He's doing the trials, the hearings, answering the phone, doing the emails, the mail, the fax, all of it. Eventually, I do get him on the phone. We arrange for a date and a time to come in. I come in, I interview him. We have a really great conversation. And at the end of it, I'm like, hey, I'm still blown away. I need to be a part of this. If you are looking for an intern or a volunteer, like, I'm your girl. I'm it. And he was like, you know what? I'll do you one better. I'll give you a job. And I'm like, oh, really? Mind you, no legal experience whatsoever. The entirety of my legal experience was investigation, discovery, and getting in trouble myself. So, like I was coming in completely wet behind the ears, and it's we have both grown a lot. Like I essentially had to teach myself how to be a legal assistant and paralegal. He had his prior paralegal come up on a Saturday. She showed me like how to file with the court system, how to do paper filings in our in office filings, uh, and where to find basic information. I think we probably spent a full workday together. It was like 7 hours or so. But after that, that was it. I was on my own. And Carrie definitely didn't have the answers to my questions because if it's I'm trying to file this particular thing and I keep getting an error message, but I'm not understanding what this means, he's going to be like, I can't figure it out. So the first few years was me figuring it out. And I am so thankful for that experience because it's taught me how to find the information I need and how to use my resources because there is so much out there that we have at our fingertips. And when things are just constantly placed in front of you, everything is right here in front of you. You just have to lean over and grab it. That doesn't work in the real world. That is not what lawyering, especially the kind of work that I do, that's not what it's like in the real world. So I am very thankful for that experience. And I've, used it to also train people up who have come up behind me, showing them, I mean, I give them more than a 7 hour day, right? But showing them where to find certain information. And then if they come to me with questions, sort of asking targeted questions to them, like, if you can't find this particular court rule, okay, where did you look? All right, what are some other places that might be good to look? Okay, well, if you didn't find it there, how else might we go about discovering this information? And it's been incredibly helpful, and I've noticed that other people benefit from it too, because now they know where to find it versus always asking someone um, for the answer. They know where to find the answer themselves.
And I think you touched on this a little bit, but besides your 7 hour workday, did you have any mentors early on, and how would you say that shaped your path?
Just Carrie, really. It was because I don't have attorneys in my family. I didn't grow up around anyone in that sort of space. So it was just Carrie. And he is, I mean, God love him. That man took me everywhere that he went, all of the lawyer events, all of, trials. I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm here rolling in our exhibit thing and I'm, calling witnesses to make sure they're there on time and giving the clients a bottle of water. But like I'm there in the courtroom and I mean, I went to my first trial maybe a year after I'd been here. We don't have as many trials as like criminal attorneys do. We might have on an average year, 3 to 4, maybe. Um, so they are few and far between. And then some years we don't have any at all. But for this, like he really did bring me everywhere he went. And he always makes sure to give me the platform. Like he won't sit there and if someone asks, "Oh, how's your firm going? What's it like?" He'll say his little piece and he'll say, the real person you want to talk to is Tiana. She runs the day to day. Like she's the one who talks to all the clients. Ask her what her favorite case is. And he would always make sure to pull me into conversations so I had input in those conversations. And even if it was just a little bit, it helped immensely because during subsequent events, when I would see these people again, these are judges, these are 25-year attorneys, these are, firm partners that in firms that have 5 different locations across the country, and they're coming up to me like, "Oh, hey, how's that, correctional misconduct case going that you were telling me about a few months ago?" And so then it turns into me having my own space. Like I don't have to rely on someone to give me the platform. People are coming to me because they care what I have to say now. And I think by him just always having me next to him and not behind him, and the little mousy secretary following behind him or anything. He always had me next to him and always made sure I got to, speak my piece about whatever it was. And that immensely helped me. And again, that's the same thing I do for my people.
I think that type of dynamic with any business partner or mentor is really something that's gonna gonna help you launch your own independence. So that's really cool. I was wondering what was a piece of advice that has stuck with you from a mentor or from Carrie.
Yes, write every text message, email, post, anything as if it's going to be used as an exhibit at trial. It is so incredibly important. And like I tell my friends that all the time now. And even when my sister just texted me earlier and she was like, "I'm gonna strangle my coworker. I can't stand her." And then she put dot 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 allegedly. So it's stuff like that. Because you never know whether something will be used as an exhibit. And I say that mostly in the professional space because we can get a little relaxed emailing between counsel or even, paralegals emailing between each other. But then if you have to use it as an exhibit, uh, maybe I didn't want to make that little off-color joke. I don't make off-color jokes in work practice, but or didn't want to say that particular thing. And also in terms of being very like having amazing attention to detail. That's probably one of the qualities that I look for the most when we're hiring, when we have interns coming on, when we have law clerks and student interns from law school. Attention to detail is so important because, I mean, it can, with emails, right? If you are emailing between you and your paralegal, and obviously the conversation's relaxed, and you're like, "Well, this client's getting on my nerves because they never answer the phone and then they call back and they're yelling at me because I called them when they were busy and blah blah blah." And then that person may unintentionally accidentally loop the client into that email to say, "Hey, Mr. Jones, I'm trying to set up an appointment with you and Miss Boardman. It appears that you have missed the last few calls." But then those comments are down at the bottom. So attention to detail is so important. Also with like the rules, the actual law that we use a lot of statutes, and there is a big difference between may and shall. And for people paying attention to those differences and knowing how that impacts what's going to happen, it seems like a small thing like, "Oh, you may go to the store," versus "you shall go to the store," but it's a big deal. And it sometimes a single word in a statute may make the difference between you winning and losing that motion. And it has a lot to do with how much research and work you put into crafting your motions and your briefings, because that when you're up there arguing before the judge, like that's what you have to work on. So you want to make sure you have answered every single question that could possibly arise. I like to also tell people that when you're writing briefs and things, yes, you're writing for lawyers and judges. You can use those fancy big words. But when you're preparing motions arguments that are going to be heard by a jury or direct exams, cross exams, openings, closings, you're talking to like actual people. So it's important to know how to communicate to actual people. I've seen so many situations where I see attorneys talking to their clients and you can see the disconnect and it you can feel the we're in two separate worlds right now and speaking two separate languages and we just don't get it. But we make it a point to be able to talk to our clients like they're people. I've had clients like apologize for cursing on the phone, and I'm like, "Girl, please." And I'll say that specifically to clients, "Girl, please." I'm not worried about that, and I find that it gives them a sort of calmness and makes them feel less like this is a legal, interview or anything. Because at the end of the day, our clients need to trust us. And if they don't feel like they can talk to us, they don't trust us. And if they don't see that we are able to do a good job, they won't trust us. And if we don't pay attention to detail and don't write everything and say everything, leave every voicemail like it's an exhibit, because we've called other people out on that before, then we're not doing the best for them. So it all like snowballs together.
Wondering what advice would you give your younger pre-law self?
Yes, I did. It was solidified my last 2 semesters of community college because that's when I was in the business program and that's when I met Carrie and started working with him. Um, hmm, as far as it, I don't think I would do anything different, to be honest. I would do exactly what I did, even all the missteps, because you learn so much more from the mistakes you make, and you learn multiple ways to address those mistakes, and then you learn even more ways to avoid those mistakes. There have been times where I didn't scan in a filing, and this was before all jurisdictions were e-filing, and we had to wet sign pleading. So I would sign for the attorney. I forgot to scan it in, didn't send the courier with a second copy for the date stamp. And then the court lost the filing. So I was scrambling because I'm like, well, if we can't prove that we filed this thing, that we took it to the courthouse, we're going to lose. It happened once and never again. So I don't think I would do anything different because I don't think I would be the type of attorney I am. And be really who I am if I didn't take those steps then.
Why do you think mentorship is so important for aspiring lawyers?
Well, it is a lot easier to get in the door if you have an appointment and someone's there waiting for you. So mentorship is like that person that you set the appointment with. They've already called down to the front desk and been like, "Hey, I'm expecting Tiana Boardman to show up here. She is this person, she's here for this." So that's what mentors are. That's what they do. They make sure that you have access to where you want to be eventually. You walk through the door and you hold it for the person that's coming up behind you. And even more important to have mentors that look like you because there's just some things that I love Carrie. He's like a friend of mine now, right? But there's just some things he won't get. He is a 50-year-old white man. I am a 37-year-old Black woman. So there are just some experiences he's not going to have. There are some things that are going to be said to him that, or to me, that would never be said to him. I've had people ask about jewelry. I've had people make slick comments about having tattoos and things. Well, one of our firm benefits is after every year that you work here, you get a free tattoo. So, like we have a interesting structure, but it's just it's important because he would not be able to guide me on how to navigate those kind of situations where you have, a much more senior attorney that is talking to you like they think you're a child or that they think you're the I can't tell you how many times I've been referred to as the secretary, even still. Like I'm walking in the courthouse with my rolling briefcase, and you're still calling me the secretary, but I know how to handle them, and I know how to prepare someone else who looks like me and who will be in those situations, how to handle them as well. Whereas Carrie just doesn't, and that's okay. That is totally okay because there's times when his his whiteness works and it helps us, it benefits us, because there's also attorneys who have refused to correspond with me, but then he'll email them and they'll immediately email back, and then he'll pass it right back off to me. So we all have our role here, and I'm very thankful for everyone here. So right now it's still like work adjacent. I am um starting to do like a Know Your Civil Rights series, and I'm like circulating that. I'm starting with a high school. I'm going to the high school back to school night, gonna have a table. I have a meeting with a local elected official in Ellicott City, I think, to talk to their folks about it. But I'm just trying to get as much information as I can, because we can always, they call it the practice of law for a reason, because you're always learning how to be better. But creating, I'm reading things to create a sort of know your civil rights information, something, information deck, a QR code, and something, because we get so many clients who either have been involved with law enforcement and there's been an injury, or it was a malicious prosecution or a false arrest. And what they don't know is that if you don't give notice to the state that you may sue them within a year, you can't sue them at all, even though your statute of limitations is 3 years. There's limited exceptions, but for the most part, if you don't give notice within a year, you don't have a lawsuit. It doesn't matter if you were in a coma. It doesn't matter if you were out of state, out of the country. And most people don't know that. We have so many people that are like, yeah, I'm just coming to terms with what happened. I'm finally healed. I'm finally physically healed and in therapy and ready to talk about it. And I want to bring a lawsuit. And I have to be the one to tell them that, hey, sorry, but even though this was horrific what happened to you and absolutely against the law, because you didn't follow this small administrative step, you don't have a suit. It's the same with people in jails and prisons. That's my main focus here, correctional misconduct, because they are the people that are most often overlooked, over abused. And my take is if you can get someone to sympathize and recognize that an incarcerated individual still has rights and still deserves to be treated like a person, then there's still hope for people in general. So, um, you know, getting the information. I'm working on getting the information out there. Again, for incarcerated people, same thing. If something happens, you tell a CO you're going to be attacked by a gang member and they don't do anything, and a week later that gang member attacks you. If you don't file what's called a grievance within 30 days, you cannot file a lawsuit if you're still incarcerated when your statute of limitations comes up. So it doesn't matter, again, if you're in a coma, if you're in the hospital, if you keep getting transferred to different facilities and you just don't have the opportunity to write it, if both of your hands are broken and you can't speak, if it wasn't filed within 30 days, there's no lawsuit, no matter how bad it is. So we're trying to figure out a way to get that information out there and let people know, like, there's a firm here that is ready, willing, able, and capable to help, and it's for free. Ooh. For people facing convictions, stay off the internet. Please stay off the internet. I don't care if you think that you are using your throwaway page or whatever. It can be tracked. People will find it. I mean, every single time we get discovery in a case, one of the questions is always, do you use social media? What are your social media handles? And have you posted about this incident on social media? And you can say no all you want, but they will find a way to access that information. And we've had clients get confronted with their Facebook posts during a deposition. Now, we already knew about the Facebook post, so we let them know, hey, seems like you misremembered something that you posted on Facebook. It's fine. It's fine. We'll deal with it. It's cool. But definitely important. And I see so many people on like TikTok, and I use TikTok as a resource. Like that's how I get some cases. That's how I spread some information, especially prison TikTok, huge. But there will be people that are talking about something that they did that is very clearly illegal on their TikTok, and now it's gone viral. And obviously, someone has saved it, and it just stresses me out. On the civil side, the police misconduct civil side, social media and videos and recordings are so incredibly important, but to do it safely because we never want someone to risk their safety to record either themselves getting arrested or record someone else, something else happening. But when we have video and when the video shows exactly what the client says happened and it shows that the officers were in the wrong, it is so helpful to us. Like ring camera videos, cell phone video, all kinds of videos. It can hurt and help. It just depends. It's another tool that can be used. And tools, again, like a gun, it can hurt, it can help. It just depends on how you use it.
So I was interested to know what advice would you have for building community as a law student?
Join all the groups, do all the fun events. There are always organizations that can be joined. A lot. One I'm a part of is Maryland Association for Justice, and law student membership is free. And I think there's another, maybe just a general student membership is also free. So find those organizations. There are a ton that do free events. There's a ton that do panel discussions for people who are interested in criminal work or legal aid work. I also volunteer for the legal aid expungement clinics, and they always have people helping there. And you get to learn a lot about things that people face. You get to learn a lot about the criminal process through the expungement process. And you really get to hone in on your ability to talk to people that you don't know anything about and that you might not have anything in common with, because that's another skill that is not taught in law school or really just school in general, about navigating life and about learning how to talk to people that you wouldn't talk to on any other day and learning how to find common ground. Because if you can do that, you can get whatever you want. It's same with opposing counsel. If you can find common ground with them, like, hey, neither one of us want to be trying this case. Neither one of us want to write these motions. How about we come to an agreement? Yeah, learn how to talk to people, learning where to find these sort of groups. And again, local bar associations, joining things like that, community organizations, going on LinkedIn. I've had so many people randomly just like slide into my DMs on LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm thinking I want to go into law. I wanted to see if we could talk about it, or I'm interested in this. Do you have any experience with that? Or I'm not interested in your area of law at all. I do want to be a lawyer. Do you know entertainment lawyer? Yes, actually, I do. I'll connect you. Doing things like that. And the worst that can happen is they ignore your message. Okay, move on to the next one. If you send 50 of them, at least five are going to respond.
Yes, I definitely think persistence is key, especially when it comes to finding your mentor, or just, finding your footing in this journey. And so, just to go a little bit deeper into your law school journey, how would you say you prepared academically and mentally for law school?
You mean like in the summer leading up to 1L kind of?
Hmm.
I took it easy because law school is stressful enough. I do not advise at all to try to learn anything ahead of time. I mean, read a case or two if you want to, but don't try to learn the elements for battery. Don't try to learn, you know, I don't know, some interests. I just don't do it. Relax, enjoy the rest of your summer. If you wanted to do anything to prepare for law school, the best way is to find some thick, dense, boring, nonsensical, like philosophy novel. Pick a section, read it, synthesize it, and break it down into what the major essentially holding is. Because that's a lot of what law school is, reading a lot of boring shit that you have no interest in, and your brain like does not want to pay attention to it at all, but you have to learn how to push through it and find the information you need. Again, I don't suggest doing any of that during the summer because preserve your mental health, like enjoy your time. But if you were like, no, I need to do something, read something super dense and boring. And maybe think about organizational systems that you can have. You know, are you the type that likes to have a binder in school versus do you keep everything on the computer? Do you handwrite with different color pens and pencils, or do you, write on your tablet? Do you like to have a calendar and write down all of your assignments for the coming week, or do you just put them on the days when you're going to actually work on the assignment? What does studying look like for you? That was probably the hardest for me to figure out because I was working full time. You know, I was working 9 to 5, and then I was in school from 6:15 to 9. So we might have 120 pages to read for constitutional law. So I have to figure out when I'm going to do that. Was mostly on the weekends, but then very often I would stay after class. The building didn't close until midnight. So from, 9:15, 9:30 until midnight, I was back up in the library reading for my next, trying to get ahead, briefing the cases because you do not want to be caught off guard in class. It's embarrassing. And just figuring out what's going to work for you as far as staying organized. Because if you can stay organized in law school, the learning part, like you made it to law school. So you're obviously smart. You're obviously competent. It's going to be a matter of time management and keeping everything you have organized. And it is so important for when you're actually an attorney doing trial prep because leading up to trial, you need to know everything about that case from the first conversation when they called or walked into your office all the way up into the very last, pretrial hearing that we had a couple days ago leading into the case. And if you're not organized and you don't have your correspondence and your motions and your exhibits and your email chains about certain topics in a way where you can easily access them, you're going to get lost in that trial paperwork. You're going to get overwhelmed and you're not going to do well.
And with all that being said, what would you say you found most surprising about law school that you didn't really anticipate?
The people are actually nice. I was so afraid that it would be like cutthroat and everyone would be just like shielding their own things and not willing to help people or be friends in general. Like when I went to undergrad at College Park, I was already 10, 12 years older than most people there. I'm not really necessarily trying to, if I'm 30 years old, I'm not trying to be friends with a 19-year-old. So I didn't really have like study groups and networks and just people I could talk to that were understanding what was going on. But in law school, that is so important. You cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. It is impossible. There is absolutely no way. If anyone tells you you can, they're lying and they cheated because it's just impossible. And finding your people, like your group of people in law school during your 1L is, I that's probably one of the most important things. Nye was one of my 1L, like we met during orientation. We met during orientation in the bathroom during a break in our Black Law Students Association presentation. And I remember she looked so cute. And I was like, girl, you look good. And, y'all know Nye. She did a little spin. Thank you. And then we were just like kikiing and giggling. And like, there's a group of four of us, and we all linked up during that first week, all Black women. You know, our group chat is called Black Lady Courtroom. And like, that's been my core group. There's days when you just don't understand what you're learning. And maybe your other friend does. When we would study for midterms and finals, we would have each one teach one, and each person would take a topic from that semester or that course. And we use a vacant classroom, and we would literally teach a like 20-minute lecture on that topic and would have example questions at the end and stuff like that. So it made it so much easier to learn the information because, some people are visual, some people are audio, some people both. So having that group and having different types of thinkers was so helpful. If you miss a class, you know someone who can take good notes. Um, Even, I mean, to this day, I still reach out to some of my classmates from 1L. I have classmates who work for the police department, and there have been times when I can't get a hold of someone and I need these particular records, and I don't want to file suit for the records because it's just a waste of my time. And I'll hit up my friend and be like, hey, who can I talk to at the police department to get A, B, and C? And, they'll figure it out. There's colleagues who are now in employment law, and I'll get a call and they'll say they have an employment action. I'm like, well, I don't do that, but let me give you the number to someone who does. And it's someone who we went to school together. They were nice to me. I was nice to them. We have a good relationship. So now I'm referring cases to them. If we work the case together, we get a fee split. So everyone wins in the end. So yeah, make friends if you can. I mean, sometimes there's just not nice people in the cohort, but as long as you have your group of like three or four people who y'all can just lean on each other when needed and lift each other up when needed, you'll be all right.
Yeah, that's definitely a very popular misconception, I feel like, especially for law school. Because people will tell me, oh, I think you're too nice to go to law school. What am I preparing for? Like war? Like, what am I
Right.
getting into? Like, but yeah, thank you for
All work
sharing.
together. And another benefit of making friends is books. We would get like five of us together, and if the con law book is $600, and there's five of us, we'd each put in, 100, 125, get the book, and then take turns scanning in the readings for the week. So instead of all of us paying $600 for this one book, we've just split it up. We all take turns scanning it in, emailing it to people, and everyone's good. You wouldn't have that if you didn't make friends.
I was wondering, how did you find your voice in rooms where you might have been the youngest, the only woman, or the only Black person?
I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily find it. I was made to use it. It's, circling back to Carrie and making sure that, I am heard and seen in legal spaces and places. So, I'm very introverted when I don't know everybody, where it's not somewhere I feel comfortable. I just want to just curl into my little ball and just observe the scene, listen to conversations, smile and nod, right? But, Carrie's always said, what you have to say is important and other people should hear it. You should say it. You have a voice, use it. So now it's so much better. You can't get me to shut up. I know I've gone off tangent like six or seven times here. But yeah, just it it's not always going to look how you think it will. Like finding your voice doesn't always look like that self-initiated power to find your voice. Sometimes it's a matter of someone pushing you into the ring and you don't have a choice. Like, am I going to be embarrassed looking here dumb, or am I going to say what I got to say because I know what I'm talking about? I say what I got to say, and then it's all up from there.
But what does it mean to you to be a Black woman in law?
It means everything. It means everything to me because I'm able to give a lot of I mentioned we work with a lot of people who have been impacted by police and corrections. We all know that is mostly Black people. I work in Baltimore City, again, mostly Black people. And I recognize that over the phone, I do not sound like I look. Fine. There have been dozens dozens of times where I either go downstairs to open the door for a client, or, maybe I've talked to this client a lot, but I've never met them in person. And then I'm meeting them in person for our motions hearing. And you can see it, like they see me, they recognize it's me. And then you just see this wave of calm or comfort or feeling just much less anxious about, what they're going through and the stage that this lawsuit is in. And that is by definition of what I look like. That is because I am a Black woman. Carrie does not give some people that same feeling. Some of the non-Black male attorneys, non-Black female attorneys, they don't give the Black clients that same sort of feeling. There's very often, especially, we get a lot of older Black women, either clients or they're calling on behalf of a son, daughter, spouse, whatever, what have you. And you can see that maternal like vibe as soon as we see each other, and they're like, oh, Tiana's watching out for me now. I feel like this is my baby, and I've had former clients call to check in. We've had folks send like letters and cards. uh, Very often our clients will like follow us on social media after the case is over. I have people, I've been invited to baby showers and birthday parties and weddings. And, we've really become a part of our clients' lives. And I think a lot of that is because they are able to relate to us, some specifically to me. We always do our best to make sure they don't feel like this is that we're against them in any way, that they're safe here, they're safe with us. We have their best interests at heart. So looking the way I look, especially with all my tattoos, I always wear my piercings. I have locks, like I wear my nails, I do all of the things. And that is incredibly important because one, it shows people who are clients that this doesn't have to be where you are. It also shows them that there are people out here that look like you and believe you, you know, and that is probably the best thing. I mean, just seeing people when they see me realize that I am Black, or when I have these very casual conversations with my client, um, and it just feels like we're on FaceTime kikiing, and really I'm getting information about the case and we're really talking about strategy, but it's done in a way that they feel more comfortable talking to me. And I think that again is because I look like them.
A little therapy sesh. Everyone's feeling right at home. That's so lovely to hear. I think having a great client attorney relationship is probably key to success in the courtroom. Um, we are going to wrap up. We have one final question, and we're wondering, Black JD is still fairly new, but it is trying to build some of that mentorship and that community that I think you touched on earlier. What role do you see organizations like Black JD playing and shaping the next generation of lawyers?
I think that Black JD would be one of the perfect organizations to partner and link with, like Black Bar Associations, Monumental City Bar Association for Baltimore, J. Franklin Bourne Bar Association in Prince George's County. There's just so many that are out there, and they don't always have some of these legal organizations forget that not everyone's an attorney, and some people are aspiring to be attorneys. And I think if slash when Black JD is able to join with some of these organizations, they'll create space and make space for aspiring lawyers and attorneys. I imagine that there could definitely be like a shadowing type of initiative where Black JD is linking aspiring attorneys to practicing attorneys in different kinds of spaces and experiences, and that is absolutely doable. Also with those Black bar associations, it's the whole gamut. Like it's the attorneys, there are Black judges that are part of these associations. You get to network, meet people. There are like CLE, continuing legal education events that are free, and then you get invited to like the cookouts and the happy hour sessions. Go to the happy hours, even if you don't drink. They're just good to mix and mingle and recognize people's faces.
Well, thank you so much for sharing everything. I feel like your transparency is definitely gave us some clarity, and hopefully it gives our audience some clarity as well, especially given that you didn't have like a traditional path. I feel like that would give a lot of people encouragement and kind of clear what their journey would look like towards law school.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I love talking to other folks, other Black aspiring attorneys, because again, I didn't have that. Like I didn't have anyone to talk to about what it looks like to be a Black attorney. So I am thankful, grateful, and blessed to be able to be in the position that I wish existed for me or was accessible to me.